Smoak. There was a story yesterday evening about the Big 12 with a subcommittee on expansion, and one of the ADs, Kirby Hocutt, was at a get-together with Texas Tech alums and fans and mentioned Mack Rhoades, and that was confirmed by me later on, not that I needed to. The reporter in Don Williams is very good in Lubbock. And then the Big 12 seriously discussing Brigham Young. Sources say TV numbers are in the Cougars' favor. Max Olson, who was on with us yesterday, and Andy Staples of theathletic.com with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Andy, seriously discussing, does that mean that maybe an invitation is all but imminent?
I don't know about that. I mean, the timing of this is pretty flexible because they don't have to do anything right now. You know, this could take a while, or if everybody's in agreement, then they can go ahead and do something. But I don't know that there's any rush to add members right now at the Big 12. I think they need to kind of figure out first, what's the master plan? How many, how big do you want to be? What do you want the league to look like? Time zones, that sort of thing. How's that going to work? But if you look at anybody who's on the board, BYU is the one on the board that a conference, including BYU, probably makes more for the current 8 members in the Big 12 that are going to stay in the Big 12, probably makes them more than a conference without BYU. And so there just really aren't other options on the board that would offer that.
What, in your opinion, would a new, say, 12 to 14 team Big 12, what can they realistically expect with payouts? Because I wouldn't imagine it would be near the $40 million that they're getting right now.
No, and it probably wouldn't. And so, payout that includes college football playoff money, NCAA tournament money, all that. Because remember, the close to 40 million piece of that is TV money plus all that stuff. So, I think realistically it's more like 20, probably, maybe a little bit less than that. And so that's the part they got to look at. And I don't know if a 12 or 14 team league does that. I think you may be talking about a 10 team league that does that, because the bigger you get, I'm not sure that brings that much more money.
Andy, any indication on the Texas-Oklahoma side of things and their planned exit? Obviously, it's completely open, but do you have any, insight on to when we might see a timeline emerge for those two schools?
They are prepared to wait as long as they have to wait. They're prepared to wait it out. They don't want to, and I guarantee you they have some very highly paid attorneys working on figuring out if there's a way to get out of there earlier. And there probably will be negotiations at some point with the current members of the Big 12 to try to figure out what's the soonest, what's that going to cost. But, right now, everybody's mad at each other. And I know from at least definitely the Oklahoma side, they'll sit there if they have to. They would rather not, but they'll do it if they have to.
Andy, there's always this, we've taken literally hundreds of chat text calls the last month since all that started with Oklahoma and Texas, that the AAC, and we heard the story about Bob Bowlesby, who put the cease and desist out there. Why would the Big 12 go to a conference that's not a Power 5 or any of them, rather than the opposite way when you hear about the AAC being a possible option for teams?
Because Mike Oresco, the commissioner of the AAC, is smart enough to know that you have to be aggressive in a case like this, because there's a chance that you're going to lose your best. And so here's why you would want to be aggressive if you're the AAC. What if, say, the Big 10 had wanted to take somebody who's still in the Big 12, or the Pac-12 had wanted to take somebody? Now, they don't, and they're not going to. But if they had, all of a sudden the Big 12 is extremely unstable, and the American starts to look like a better option to the teams that are left, or to some of the teams that are left, some of the schools that are left. But since that didn't happen, if the 8 remaining Big 12 schools stay together, that's a more attractive league than the American. And they should be able to pick off the best of what the American has if they want.
Do you feel like the alliance that was announced, which to me was, I don't know what that, I'm not trying to downgrade it, but you snickered.
Downgrade
too.
Away.
Yeah. Okay. It was a nothing burger. But do you feel like
that's exactly what I said?
Did you feel like that also them not asking or talking to the Big 12 about this was because they knew that the Big 12 is vulnerable and it would just like possibly, they don't want that thing to fall apart?
No.
Okay.
This is the part where your listeners don't like what I'm about to say, and you probably don't like what I'm about to say.
That's okay.
They did it because they think they're much stronger than the Big 12 and in a much better place than the Big 12, and they will have more power together and don't want to dilute that power with a league that they don't consider to be on their level.
Nothing wrong with truth serum.
I want to go back to something you said a second ago, and this is for our listeners, of which multiple times a day we'll get calls, texts, emails about, well, Kansas is clearly going to the Big Ten, and West Virginia is clearly going to the ACC, and so is going to the Pac-12.
Oak State and Tech to the Pac-12.
Yeah, all of those things. You said, and I want it reiterated, that they're not adding people, and they're not going to. For our listeners who will never believe that, explain why they won't.
So everything is different in this round of realignment. The last round of realignment was all about territory acquisition. It's about get more cable homes in your conference footprint and make more money off your cable channel. That's why for the SEC, once they got Texas A&M and the 10 million cable homes of Texas, they didn't go get Clemson or Florida State. They went to Missouri, where they didn't already have a school in the state, to add 2 million more cable homes to the footprint. And that's why the Big Ten added Rutgers and Maryland, which contribute pretty much nothing competitively, but contribute tons of cable homes in the tri-state area for Rutgers and in the DMV for Maryland. But now the cable industry has changed. People have cut the cord. Non-sports fans have figured out, why am I paying for ESPN when I don't watch it? Why do I pay $7.50 a month for one ESPN channel when I don't watch it? And so you've lost, 20 to 30 million of those people out of that system. So now the economic drivers are different. The economic drivers for this round of realignment are, how many games can you create that people feel like they cannot miss? And so when you can create Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, LSU, Oklahoma, Florida, Texas, Georgia, those are games people feel like they can't miss. That's the type of school that can move into a different power conference. The ones who are not in the top third of their league, they're not moving anywhere. Like even the bottom half of the SEC, the bottom half of the Big Ten, most of the ACC, if they wanted to move right now, everybody would be like, no, we're good. Like, you have to kind of be Oklahoma, Texas, USC level to even be a candidate.
I know that there's somebody writing you a strongly worded email right now and say, well, not stand for your Kansas versus Purdue is not a can't miss game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the problem. So what happened, let's say we'll use Kansas as an example. AAU member, great. Big Ten loves that. Geographically contiguous, great. Big Ten loves that. If anybody in the Big Ten brought up adding Kansas, the immediate response from Purdue, from Northwestern, from Indiana, from Minnesota would be, why would we take a pay cut to add Kansas? Yeah. You've got to be able to add enough that everybody else makes more money. And that's the issue right now.
Andy, where are we on the college football playoff and expansion? Saw Gordon Gee's comments, seen various comments over the last couple of weeks. Seems like it's kind of at a stalemate, if anything, but where would you say we are as far as that process goes?
Yeah, everybody's going to throw their little temper tantrum about the SEC making a move, and then they're all going to come back together and realize that the plan that was proposed, which Bob Bowlesby was a part of the proposal as well, the plan that was proposed works the best for all of the leagues involved. Like, Gordon Gee can say and can vote no on it. It's the dumbest thing you could possibly do for the Big 12. I would assume that once Texas and Oklahoma leave, the Big 12 would like to participate in the college football playoff, would like to get a team in every once in a while. Well, you're going to have to say yes to an expanded playoff that has automatic bids for conference champions. Otherwise, that's probably going to happen very infrequently. So, I mean, if you're Gordon Gee, you can voice your displeasure right now and vote no right now, which means it won't happen in 2023. And that's perfectly understandable. And I don't blame the Big Ten or the Pac-12 if they want to say, hey, we want to all be in the room when this gets hammered out. So can we do it this way? And that takes a little bit longer, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, Kevin Warren from the Big Ten has said he's a big fan of playoff expansion. George Kliavkoff from the Pac-12 is a fan of expansion because he has to be, because the Pac-12 would like to participate. So Gordon Gee can be mad all he wants, But there will come a point where the other Big 12 presidents will be like, you're not voting no this time, because we need this.
Andy, a question about Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12. They seem to be, whatever happens with the Brigham Young or a UCF or whoever else may be in the discussion, and they have this subcommittee, they almost seem like they're stuck because they have to play the waiting game, and yet they don't know exactly when Oklahoma, Texas are leaving. And can they be aggressive at the same time or not?
Well, that's my question, and nobody's been able to give me a satisfactory answer to that.
I can't get it either. Yeah.
I think the smartest thing the remaining 8 schools can do from a financial standpoint is to squeeze as much money as possible out of Texas and Oklahoma, whether that's waiting them out or getting them to write a giant check, or some combination of the two, like waiting 2 years and then saying, okay, now we'll take this amount and you can leave because we hate you and you hate us, and bye. I think that would be probably the most logical thing. But the part I can't figure out and the part I can't get a straight answer on is, if you added schools now and had them coming in, does that change or give Texas and Oklahoma an out?
Yeah.
Because if I'm the other 8, I don't give them any sort of out. I force them to either stay so I can get that money in a revenue sharing agreement, or write checks so we get that money one way or the other.
Yeah, that
I agree. No, that's what I've been saying the whole time. Absolutely.
We can't get anyone to say, no, we can go expand and it doesn't affect whether they pay us or not. And that's
the only part of that that makes sense is the bylaws say that you got to have 8 of 10 yes votes to expand. So essentially, I don't know what Texas or Oklahoma would do. Would they vote no just to be difficult? If they would, that means you'd have to have basically unanimous among the other members to decide if you want to expand. That part I understand, but I don't know, and I'm not sure. It might be one for the lawyers. Can they add somebody without giving Texas and Oklahoma an out?
Did you just say that Texas and Oklahoma may want to be difficult?
No.
Hey, Andy.
Exactly.
I know there's a lot going on. You guys at theathletic.com, I say this all the time. We've had other writers. Max was on with us yesterday. What you're doing there is incredible. It's the only subscription site that I get on other than the company that we work for. And, of course, I get a free pass to that. It's worth it. It's great. Thanks for your time and appreciate your access today.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for the plug, because we love doing it.
Yep, you can tell. Yeah, theathletic.com and Andy Staples, he and Max Olson tell you that story about Brigham Young, the title, the Big 12. Seriously discussing Brigham Young. Sources say the TV numbers are in the Cougars' favor. We'll have former All-American, longtime NFL veteran Derek Johnson, who's from Waco, Texas. He's being inducted tomorrow in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, along with many others, including DeMarcus Ware and Clint Dempsey, and Teresa Weatherspoon is one of the great all-time women's basketball players, and so many others. Charlie Waters. There's a lot of names coming in that are high level, and he's going to join us. And boy, there are a lot of things to get to with him. One, his thoughts about Texas and OU, and also just about the start of and about being inducted into what the state of Texas, with all the great names, is immortality as well.
You know what? Going back to BYU for a second, just to wrap up Andy's call. If you think about Notre Dame and why Notre Dame has their own TV deal, is that because of their association with the Catholic Church and being the large Catholic university that they are, they can guarantee that when they have a football game, TVs in all 50 states will be watching them.
I think, yeah.
There are schools, there are big, gigantic schools that maybe can't make that same thing because their teams aren't as good, are not good all the time. So
but like in Fargo, North Dakota, are they always going to be watching USC?
No, it's exactly. So yeah, maybe, but but BYU is the same way in that, like, if BYU is going to be on TV, there are televisions in all 50 states that will be on it, because there are people who went to that school or have a religious affiliation to that school. That's why BYU is attractive. I can't say that about Stanford. I can't say that about Washington. I can't say that about Arizona State. Now, probably about school. Like, look, Alabama, when Alabama plays, they're on all 50 states. We know that, but
that was always the case.
No, it's not always the case. But there are okay, let's just take a middle of the road like Kentucky. Probably not.
Basketball.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Kentucky football. Yeah,
football. No,
it's about football TVs. So like Kentucky football. Kentucky plays Auburn, and they're both good. They're both bowl teams. That's going to get a nice number for ESPN. They'll be happy with that, but it's not going to be the guaranteed.
But you don't know if somebody in Maine is watching that game.
No,
you probably. But
I have a good shot with BYU to know that it may not be a lot of people, but maybe there's some Mormons in Maine that are gotta watch the Cougars now.
But will they be able to watch Brigham Young at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, Mexico City, and inside the White House? Yeah. Because that's part of our audience. We got to let them know, right?
Exactly, yeah. So
a lot of you have been texting. The chat room continues to fire away. We'll have Derek Johnson here momentarily. Anything, Craig, to tag on to what Andy said? And again, there's that question. I keep saying this, and there's frustration from fans or audience. Well, they got to go do this, and yet I don't know if they actually can. And if they can't, then they just have to sit back and wait. It's like a slow death, isn't it? Like watching yourself die.
I mean, not really. To me, it'd be a slow death if you knew that Oklahoma and Texas were leaving soon and there were no other options. But they're sitting here today. We're talking about them adding BYU, which would be the opposite of dying. It would be staying alive.
And no matter what, they're set through 24.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 4 more years minimum. And if you can't figure out something in 4 years,
you should die.
I mean, then you don't. Yeah, your program probably doesn't deserve to last in the space that it was occupying. Quite frankly, if you can't figure something out in 4 years from now. But I just think that he hammered home various points that, most people are starting to grasp onto as far as, what's this is really about. And, when people have brought up rivalries, that's why I said rivalries don't matter here. You got Oklahoma and Texas going to renew some rivalries, but that's just like a side product of it. Yeah, that wasn't intentional. They never said, hey, we're going to go here to reignite. No, they went to the SEC because it's money. Like, that's the only reason, and it's a higher spot on the totem pole. So we've been saying geography doesn't matter. Rivalries don't matter. All the things that college football fans care about the most don't matter in this. It really doesn't, and I think that's hard to kind of understand because those things seem so important. But for the people making the decisions,
tradition, pageantry, atmosphere,
doesn't matter. None of it.
That used to be college football, right?
The only tradition that matters is how many eyeballs you've attracted because of how much you've won. But as far as your exact total of national championships, or your exact total of All-Americans, or your Heisman, it doesn't matter. I mean, Oklahoma is not more attractive because they've got 7 Heisman and 7 national championships. No, they're attractive because they're a national brand. They recruits all over that gets great TV ratings. That's why they're attractive, not because of all the other stuff, not because of Stoops and Switzer.
Well,
none of that
because of that. But because of
because of that, but not specifically because of those people or those wins or whatever. It's just the overall product. So, I mean, it's just a different realignment than what people were used to a few years ago. Big 12's got the ball in their court right now, and they better be careful with the dribble.
When we come back, Derek Johnson, former All-American linebacker at Texas, about to be a part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. That is tomorrow night. The great Brad Sham will MC that event in Waco. We are live just outside of Austin, Texas, in Round Rock. Tonight we have high school football at 7 o'clock on Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports on YouTube between Midway and Round Rock High School. We'll get into some of that as well.